Coming up, last orders, the campaign to save the local as pub closures continue to rise.
On the centenary of the Great War, German schoolchildren visit their war dead in Staffordshire.
And wishing on a star. How tonight is the night for looking skywards. An inquest hears how a woman who killed herself was stressed about moving house because of the so-called bedroom tax. Details next.
We've got the very latest headlines from here and around the world coming up in half an hour. That's after the news from where you are.
You're watching ITV News Central. On our programme tonight, suicide. An inquest finds Doreen Bottrell killed herself. But was the government's so-called bedroom tax to blame?
Also tonight, how should hospitals break the news of a death? One family is furious. They weren't told the truth.
If we'd have been told, we could have been there with her. And she had nobody with her. She was all on her own.
Behind enemy lines, remembering the fallen at Britain's only German war cemetery.
And last orders, why your local pub could soon become a supermarket.
Good evening. When Doreen Bottrell walked out in front of a lorry on the M6, she was desperate, scared that she might have to leave her home because of the government's so-called bedroom tax. Or today, an inquest found that she had deliberately killed herself.
But tonight, the local council said Doreen Bottrell had told them she was happy to move. Her son has defended the government's controversial policy. Mark Goff was in court.
Doreen Bottrell killed herself last May by walking in front of a lorry on the M6 in Birmingham. She died from multiple injuries. She was preparing to move from her house in King's Standing under the spare room subsidy rules, also known as the bedroom tax. An inquest today heard that she told her family that she couldn't cope with the stress and wanted to end it all, and had written a note saying she was planning to jump off a bridge. In this note to her son, she wrote, "Don't blame yourself. The only people to blame are the government." Under the government's spare room subsidy rules, people must pay more to stay in local authority housing if they have empty bedrooms or move to a smaller house. Doreen Bottrell was told by housing officials that she had to pay more to stay in her house or move to a smaller house. A statement from her GP was read out in court, and he said this situation with the housing had caused Doreen Bottrell stress and anxiety. She'd agreed to see her GP the day before her death after her family raised concerns. In a statement to the inquest, the GP, Dr Bindu Nair, said Miss Bottrell told him she'd telephoned her children in the early hours of that day, saying she couldn't cope with the stress and wanted to end it all. But he said she was happy to move house, but it was the way she was being forced to make a decision which was making her unhappy. Today, Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council said Miss Bottrell wasn't forced to move from her house. Under the spare room subsidy rules, she could choose to remain and pay more, or move, and she'd chosen to move. They also said she would have received financial help to stay, and she'd been offered 11 alternative houses and chosen 2 to decide on. The inquest said that Ms Bottrell had attempted suicide before, and she'd been suffering from stress and anxiety since 1993. Her brother spoke after the hearing and expressed some support for the spare room subsidy rules.
She wasn't prepared to give somebody else a chance, as far as I could see. And as I said, for social housing to work, it's a system that people need to take their turn. And when their turn's over, they need to pass those houses on. And much has been written about, this bedroom tax pushing. Well, it wasn't, because prior to that she'd attempted suicide before, and that hadn't been reported in the press. So, that might have been the catalyst to push her, but was it just an excuse that she was looking for?
The coroner said that in view of the notes that she'd left, he was satisfied that Ms Bottrell had intended to take her own life. Mark Goff, ITV News, Birmingham.
An inquest has been told substantial improvements to security have been made at a mental health unit after a patient went missing and killed herself. A jury concluded that Kirsty Ratchford committed suicide after absconding due to inadequate procedures at Newbridge House in Birmingham. She was being detained there under the Mental Health Act. Miss Ratchford was able to walk out and then throw herself off a multi-storey car park.
I'm really glad of the outcome. I think a lot of stuff has been relayed as what we wanted to find. I'm glad the NHS have made the relevant changes that needed to be changed in that unit, and if it can stop it happening again to somebody else, then we've done our job here today.
A religious charity is threatening the government with a judicial review over new regulations in reaction to the Trojan horse plot. The Christian Institute has branded the proposals unlawful and an overreaction. They claim teachers will be required to remove gender-specific terms like wife from the curriculum, and Christian schools would be forced to downplay religious festivals such as Christmas. The Department for Education says it's simply untrue that there could be any such consequence from its proposed regulations.
A man's been injured after shots were fired following a car crash in Birmingham this afternoon. It happened on the junction of the A4040 and St Edburgh's Road in Stetchford just after 1:30. Police say one of the cars drove off towards Yardley after the incident, and a short while later a man went to hospital with head and arm injuries. They're not thought to be life-threatening.
The family of a 93-year-old woman say they're devastated that they were told over the phone by the hospital that their mother had taken a turn for the worse when in fact she died almost an hour earlier.
Gertrude Walker died at Leicester Royal Infirmary in June. Her family say they lost the chance to spend those last few moments with her. Lee Comley reports.
She'd help anybody, she'd do anything for anybody. She's very giving, very caring. Just a lovely lady. She was.
Gertrude Walker was admitted to Leicester Royal Infirmary after falling at her care home. While there, they found she had a chest infection. Her condition deteriorated. After 2 days in hospital, she died at 1:30 a.m. on the 29th of June. Her family say they weren't told until almost an hour after. At 2:22, her daughter received a phone call saying her mother had taken a turn for the worse, but there was no mention that she'd died.
And she was just laying there, icy cold, got blue marks all over her face. It was just awful thing to see. And if we'd have been told at 1 o'clock when she took ill, we could have been there with her. And she had nobody with her, she was all on her own.
The hospital has apologised to the family, saying it's looking at its training and the way that staff communicates with relatives.
It is not acceptable that there are any delays in imparting bad news to relatives, but nurses try their hardest to actually deliver information based on the patient's, the relatives' wishes and how much they want to be told and in what manner. And we can only apologise for on this occasion we didn't get it completely right.
Sandra says she wants a full inquiry into her mother's death, saying in future families should be given the choice in how they're informed. Lee Comley, ITV News.
So, is there any better way of hospitals informing families in these kinds of situations? Well, you've been debating this on our Facebook page. Here's a brief selection of your comments. Jürgen Halligan says, my mother died in a hospice in York and they phoned me to tell me she hadn't long left. I was 15 minutes into my journey. I was devastated and still think I should have been told in person when I arrived rather than on the phone.
D. Allison says, this can't be helped. My dad died just as we left the hospital. He was fine when we left. We got a phone call 20 minutes later to say that he'd had a coronary and he was dead when we arrived. No one can predict the time we die, not even the doctors. Give them a break, she says.
Sharon Majek says, when I was nursing, we were always told to tell them to get there as soon as possible, even if they had already passed. It has been done that way for many years. It's a difficult call to make at any time, but to tell them over the phone is horrible. So they are caught really between a rock and a hard place. Well, thank you to everyone for sharing their thoughts on what is, of course, a difficult issue. Now, a record number of tourists visited Birmingham last year, according to figures published today. The report from Marketing Birmingham says 34 million people came to the city, spending £5.34 billion between them. It's claimed the increased income has helped to create more than 2,000 new jobs in the city and the surrounding area.
We've had the strongest number of visitors coming to Birmingham last year. We've had 34 million visitors coming to the city, and that's a really good performance when you compare us to other cities. We've had the largest number of international visitors coming to the city as well compared to any other area, so we're doing really well when it comes to attracting people to come and visit and explore Birmingham.
People in Herefordshire who were affected by last winter's floods have been given extra time to apply for financial support. Grants of up to £5,000 are being offered by Herefordshire Council to help pay for protection against future floods. The deadline is now the 22nd of September.
People turning to food banks in the Midlands will be offered financial advice after new research showed an alarming increase in those suffering money problems. The pilot scheme is being launched by the Trussell Trust across its 400 food banks.
The dream is that people only need to go to a food bank once. So the idea here is a sort of, well, financial equivalent of give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach him to fish and he eats for life. So the idea is at this point when people are at their most desperate, that's when you intervene. That's when you put them back on track, whether it's about budgeting or what benefits are entitled to they're missing out on, or trying to help them sort the debt. This is when they need it, so let's help them then.
A new campaign has been launched to help save the classic British pub. The Campaign for Real Ale wants politicians to close a loophole in planning laws that allows pubs to be converted into shops without permission from the council.
Here in the Midlands, around 7 pubs close every week. Earlier this year, a campaign was launched to stop a pub in Hereford being turned into a branch of Tesco's. The latest campaign was launched today at the Great British Beer Festival, from where David Wood now reports.
For many, it's a treat at the end of the day or an excuse to meet friends, but a classic pint could be becoming a thing of the past. As more pubs close, as fewer of us are heading to our local for a quick drink. So brewers are having to find different ways to keep people drinking.
We're trying to give the customer what they want. We're looking for new flavours, we're looking for innovative brews. We've got a range of strengths, a range of colours, a range of flavours. In essence, there's a beer for everybody, and we're just trying to serve those people.
And brewers changing with the times means the real ale industry is booming. But alongside that, pub trade is still shrinking. In the first 6 months of the year, 31 pubs shut across the UK every week, and that's up on the same period last year. The Wheat Sheaf was one of those under threat, not because of falling trade, but because the landowners wanted to change it to something more profitable, like a supermarket.
There's an awful lot of supermarkets out there. I mean, within 500 yards of this pub, there's 4 or 5 different supermarkets, but this is the great pub in the area. So for people, if you talk to the people of the area, they don't want another supermarket, they want to keep their pub, the pub they all come to every weekend.
They eventually won their battle, and the Campaign for Real Ale wants the government to help pubs in a similar situation.
It's a really simple thing. It's just closing a loophole in the planning law, which at the moment allows pubs to be either their use changed or knocked down without reference to local community, with no consultation with local councils. And we'd just like the government to very simply change that law, so before you can do that, before you can take a pub away from the community, they just have a say in it.
Under the current planning regulations, no one needs planning permission to turn a pub into something like a shop or a supermarket. But the government does say that local authorities do have the power to step in if there is enough demand from members of the public. A pint is certainly popular here, but brewers know they must keep changing with the times to make sure for them it's not last orders. David Wood, ITV News.
You're watching ITV News Central. Still to come on the programme, the apple of their eye. It's a bumper crop for the fruit this summer.
Plus, wish upon a star. Will we see meteor showers above the Midlands tonight?